Thank you guys for coming to the SEO case studies and trends group. We have some amazing panelists today, and like I said, you guys are very lucky that you picked this room. Over there. So my name is Cohen. I run a digital agency called Actful, and we do SEO work and some of that stuff, and that's why I was asked to sit on this panelist discussion. Anyways, I want the panelists to introduce themselves, and they're definitely experts in their fields, and I think they all have a lot to share.
Hi, I'm Eric Wu. I'm VP of Growth and Product at Squid Media currently. I've been doing SEO since 2002. I've done it for YellowPages.com, AT&T, Earthlink, recently with Adam here, who I'll pass on to, eHow.com, which was doing 130 million unique visitors at monthly unique visitors at one point. So I have a pretty good history in SEO, and hopefully we'll have a great panel talking about not just SEO, but how it collaborates with social.
My name is Adam Piotrowski. I run the SEO and email marketing team over at Domain Media, where Eric used to use this as well. Domain Media, we are a big online media property. Very excited some of our big sites. Our big site, eHow.com, Livestrong.com, Crack.com, a whole lot of others. So we are all about creating content for real life. It's kind of our motto. I've been in the online media space, specifically focused on online marketing and SEO since I got out of school. So a little over 12, 15 years now. So I love the space. I'm passionate about the space. When I'm not at work, I'm reading about it. I'm, on my own working on sites. So it's something that is really a part of my DNA, and always excited to share learnings and thoughts on it with anybody and everybody.
Hey everybody, my name is Tyler Vickers, and I'm the U.S. SEO lead for Yahoo. So I oversee the SEO priorities and progress for all the U.S. properties, so Yahoo Sports, News, Movies, things like that. I've been with them for about a year and a half now, but I've been doing SEO for the past 4 years, so I guess I'm the rookie on the panel. So I'm still constantly learning new things about SEO, and I'm excited to talk about stuff with you guys today.
I think we're all so confident.
Yeah, especially with SEO.
Cool. Can I actually just ask a quick question? With a show of hands, how many people here have SEO questions that are probably outside of the standard stuff that we're going to talk about? Yeah. All right. I'm trying to figure out how many people are going to participate in the Q&A so we can sort of trim the first part down. Okay, cool. So the first question is, you've done SEO since 2002, and obviously it's very different today. So the question is, what is working and what is not working in SEO? And I would just maybe add a little bit to that. Some of the people in here probably don't have major brands or sites that get hundreds of millions of visitors. So maybe we can give some examples for people that are also doing some grassroots stuff and have some smaller web properties.
So what is working, especially for, both small, I talk to a lot of startups in the community, and the thing that really does just tried and true, get your on-site stuff polished really well, meaning you need to make sure your technicals are solid. That is your absolute foundation. If you create awesome content and Google and Microsoft can't see it, it doesn't matter, right? It's like that tree falling in low forest, right? So make sure that you get your crawl rate in a good spot. And one of the tips to figure out whether or not you have a great crawl rate or not is look at the amount of pages you have on your site. So if you have a 1,000-page site, your crawl rate should be at least 80 to 100% of that on a daily basis, meaning you should be crawling 800 to 1,000 URLs per day. If you're not, that means you have a crawl problem. If you're doing great, you're going to be doing well more than that. So an example, when I was at eHow, we had 5 million URLs on our site. Wow. And that's a lot. And basically, when I first started, we were at 3 to 4 million URLs crawled per day. We were doing pretty good. After we made a few technical changes, we updated our XML sitemaps, we got that up to 5 to 6 million URLs crawled per day. After we did a lot more on the technical side to improve the crawl rate, we went from 5 million URLs crawled per day to 15 million URLs crawled per day. And what happened was we saw that when we published a piece of content, it was indexed, it was crawled within 30 minutes, and it was indexed within an hour, and we're already receiving traffic at that point. So when you're thinking about how to get your message out as quickly as possible, that is one of the foundational things.
Yeah, I was gonna.
So in Google Web Tools, if you haven't signed that up, there's a lot of the, like Bing has their own Bing Webmaster Tools, and even Yandex, if you don't think about the Russian search engines, they actually have great Webmaster Tools that, although you're not in their search, they give you a lot of information and feedback. So in Google Webmaster Tools, they actually tell you what your crawl rate is, and that's usually where people are most concerned with.
Yeah, I would definitely start echoing what Eric said. First and foremost, make sure that your site architecture, all your technical pieces of the site are working great and up to par. So if you have somebody that really knows how to do that, great. If you don't, it's money very well spent from the beginning to make sure that you have all your technical components of the site together, right? Because like you said, it doesn't matter what you do at that point. If they can't see it, they can't find it, they can't crawl it and index it, they're not going to put it in front of anybody's eyes. Right? So that's huge. After that,
can you maybe touch also on what's not working? Like what do people like avoid 100%?
Wait, that's my
I mean, for me right now, I would really say anything that feels short-term thinking. You know, this is an exciting time to be in SEO. I've always approached SEO as a marketer because that was kind of my initial background. And that piece of any business has always been, you have to start with a great foundation. If you offer a service, your service has to be great. If you offer a product, your product needs to be great. Otherwise, you can't build a business on that. And so people come to me and they say, well, how do I get high rankings in Google? How do I beat out my competitors? And my first response is, do you deserve to beat out your competitors? Are you better than them? You know? And if not, then you you might want to think about putting some focus on your product, right? Because there are tricks you can do, short-term things to get up there, but what's the point of doing all that work if people get to your site and they're not happy with what you have there? Whether your product is a piece of content, whether it's your service that you're selling them, or whatever that is, right? So first and foremost, I think a hyper focus on this is getting back into what's working, but a hyper focus on your product and your user experience, right? Those two things, I think, that builds a foundation for a long-term success in terms of SEO, and it's exciting to see our industry talking about that all the time now, whereas 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't really talk about that. Our job was to get you to the site, and then at that point, hey, we did our job. You're here, right? But it's so much more than that now. And any of these kind of short-term things, it's inevitably, they take the focus away from that. And I think, there's that old saying, about kind of, well, not really saying, but that, thing about kind of going with your gut on a lot of things. And you know when something maybe doesn't feel right. And so a lot of these short-term tricks that a lot of them still work, right? But if you're so focused on these things and you're not focusing on your product, it's going to be tough for you to find success over the long term and really build a business on it.
I couldn't agree with what you guys said more, and to even go a little bit farther into how important user experience is, I think a big part of what, at least in-house SEOs that like us do now, is trying to redefine what SEO really means now in a modern sense. And one of the things that I know is not working is thinking of SEO purely as a function of where you rank, rankings, constantly chasing where we are for a particular keyword or a set of keywords and things like that. we absolutely still use them. We track those every day, even for, for Yahoo. We look at them, we use them as an indication of how our content may be performing, or looking for signals about what people are interested in. But I think one of the things that's changed the most for me in trying to explain my job is not chasing keyword rankings in and of themselves, but like Tom said, providing a strong user experience, making sure that we, and again, my Yahoo is a particular case, but that we're providing the best user experience in some of the most competitive, stories and breaking news in the world. Are we technically sound, but are we also providing something that, that syndicated content might not? And doing that in a more holistic way is going to be the modern aspect of SEO that goes beyond having still the fundamentals of the technical aspect of the business, but making sure that we provide something that goes beyond that, and beyond just the regular sort of maniacal focus on keyword rankings is going to be paramount. So,
can you define more when you said quality user experience? Can you talk more about that? I know it's hard to put in words, but to the best.
Sure, and it's a lot of, for instance, a lot of the old ways of understanding titling your content. That used to be the standard phrase used to be, sort of like, we want to have your whatever keyword you're chasing right now. That needs to be the first 3 words of your title. It needs to be, summer movie preview 2014, and then colon and a bunch of other stuff. Nowadays, I think that, and we go a little bit farther into this later on in terms of the conflation between social and search factors. But now I would say something like, titling content in a way that provides something greater than just the keyword phrase there that might be interesting to your users, that might use a title that's a little bit more snappy, a little bit more what a lot of times was traditionally understood as a social title, something that you would share. That's gonna carry over into search as well, because people will be more willing to click on that. So I guess what I mean to say when I unique and refreshing content is sort of, again, within the prism of the search world, is saying don't think in an ironclad way that just leading your content with a particular keyword phrase or targeting that in a really obvious way is going to give you the best results going forward. You want to provide the best experience and the most interesting one to your users, the one people actually click on and share just as well as they would search for it. So I hope that answers it a little bit.
Are there any metrics, maybe? I don't know if somebody else, or Tyler or you, but are there any metrics that you use to track usability or user experience? What's a good metric to take a look at?
Yeah, it depends on. There's a lot of tools out there that you can measure a lot of these things with a real hyper focus. But some of the basic things you can be looking at is, what's your time on site for users? How long are they staying? How many pieces of content or pages are they consuming when they come in? If you're looking and you're seeing, hey, people are landing on a page and they're not looking at anything else and they're here for 30 seconds, then you're probably not delivering a great user experience, right? So that's probably the most obvious way. And so you need to, things like speed, are things that you look at when, you asked about what do you mean when we talk about quality user experience? It's not just the content that they're getting. And think about when you go into the restaurant. If the food is great, but the decor is terrible, the server's an ass, it's not a good experience no matter how good the food is. Or vice versa, if the food is crap, but the service is great. So you need to think about all these things. So what is the content that you're delivering them? How quickly can they get it? What is is it easy for them to find? When they land on that page and they have that question or looking for that product, do they find it right away, or do you have a ton of other things going on that they can't find it? Are you asking them to do too many things? Right? So top line metrics are page views per visit, time on site, bounce rates a little, you can look at that. I would take that with a grain of salt, but those are some of the top line things. And then there's the programs out there where you can actually mark up the whole page, and you can look in Google Analytics, which is free. You can see click maps kind of. It's a little rudimentary, but you can see where people are hitting things. But there's other, Crazy Egg's a good one, and if you got to pay for some of these things.
Another great one.
What's that?
Evolution is a great heat map tool.
Evolution.
That's your company.
That's my company.
But these heat map tools are great, and you should invest some time in these because you need to know what's going on your site when somebody lands on it. If you don't, then you're just kind of flying by, hey, I'm going to put this module here because I bet people are going to click on it. You know, you don't know. Like everything you add to your page and every page you add to your site, it's like players that you're putting on the field and you're giving them all equal playing time. Well, if they suck, they're making your team worse, right? So every little thing that you add to your site either brings your site up or brings your site down. There's nothing that's just kind of even, right? So the more you can get into measuring these things and understanding what's going on with them, the better experience you can create for your users. And the easiest thing you can do is you can ask them, you know? Net Promoter Score is a good thing, you know? You can put up a little module like that, it's a good thing. But you can ask your users, you know?
Eric, quick question for you. I know you wanted to. Can people use paid traffic to help complement SEO, or maybe to help figure out whether the site is the user experience questions? I mean, how can we use some of the paid traffic to help?
I mean, I understand the question. So the question is largely, is there a symbiosis between paid and organic search? And for the most part, I believe there is. You know, people talk about, should I bid on my own keyword phrases? Should I bid on my own brand? And in some cases, it makes a lot of sense. I think that paid is just yet another channel beyond, you know, you have social, you have paid, you have organic, you even have your newsletter and other ways of getting direct traffic in. So you should leverage paid, and the way that you should look at it is coming back to that idea of user experience. But paid is especially interesting because they're still coming in from that search perspective. So to kind of expand a little bit of this conversation into both social and SEO is that at Spin Media, we have Spin Magazine, Vibe Magazine, we do celebrity news, Celebuzz, The Frisky, we do all kinds of different things, and it's largely social driven, right? You're going to see that in Facebook, Twitter, and we drive tons of traffic in through social. The thing that we've seen in our analytics, and this is where you really, to Adam's point, you really need to track things really, really, really well, because it'll help open up opportunities for you to not waste your time exploring something that's not going to work. So what we actually saw was, you know, when I first started Spin Media, they basically said, look, 80% of our traffic is organic, or is social. You know, 15% of it is organic. We really don't need SEO. And when I looked at it, it was like, okay, maybe you really don't need SEO. But as I dug in and you looked at it, you basically, if you do the core basics of SEO, you can grow not only your SEO, but your direct traffic. And to the point of, you know, the PPC buys, is that you need to look at that from a perspective of that user who's arriving at your site and where they're coming from. So from a social perspective, they're seeing in their Facebook feed, they're seeing their Twitter feed, and what happens is they don't have a user intent at that point. Their intent is just to see what's going on. So they come to our site, they read a few pages, and they leave. And they come to our site, read a few pages, and they leave. Now, a person who's a searcher, whether it's organic or paid, they have a particular user intent. And so what happens is that person arrives at your site, they read the content, and at that point, because they had a specific task in mind, they are now more likely to become a direct user. So what we've seen over time is that although our organic or our social traffic can be this large, right? And then our organic traffic was this big and our direct was even smaller. As we did the right thing from the SEO perspective, we still received the same amount of social traffic, a huge amount. But over time, we see organic be 6x not only what our social traffic was, but what is more interesting was that our direct traffic is now as large as our social traffic over time. And what happens is because that organic user or that searcher, because of that strong intent, they're now converting into a direct user. And that is where you want to grow. Because those are the people who you don't have to fight for. They're going to be coming because they know your brand and they want to consume your own content based on who you guys are. So I guess it kind of conflated some of that.
No,
but
I think that's I want to ask Tyler a question. But let me just, guys, direct traffic means that they type in the URL directly in the address bar. Okay, so they know exactly where they want to become with. Tyler, is SEO free traffic?
It is not. It's I've kind of gotten that question before in the sense that they think a lot of times the idea that any traffic is free or that any of the actual effort that we have to put into it is free. I don't think that it is. I think that SEO, just as much as social and as much as paid, takes some an investment. Not necessarily always in actual funds, but in time and in also priority. I've found that, kind of going to both of your guys' points, that treating SEO as a silo as much as, or any of these things as one silo that doesn't affect the other thing, whether it be from saying we don't need SEO at all because we already have such high social traffic. Misunderstands the point that all these things influence one another. Every part of the traffic, every channel that you have that brings people to your site influences the other thing. Going back to the paid search in the way I've used it in the past is, you do have, that's not only a search, a great sense of, there's a user intent, as Eric was talking about, for every searcher. But paid search can tell you exactly, but in a much more directed way, what people will click on. And you can say, okay, well, once we know that, how does that affect our organic search strategy? How does that affect the way that we're creating the new articles around those particular keywords? And I think that that is never kind of a free thing. So,
just add to that a little bit. Saying that, it's also not kind of a one and done thing, which I think is a big misconception a lot of people have, where you're just, we're just going to SEO our site, we'll do this over the next month and then we're good to go. Now, I always use explaining to my parents, I always use the fitness analogy as SEO. It is fitness for your website. It is a health program for your website. And then the same concept, like you could have a great workout plan and eat healthy for the next 3 months and get in a great shape, get that six-pack you wanted, but the second you stop, the gut comes back, you slow down, blood pressure goes up. It's the exact same thing. So
what changes to cause that? Why is that degraded?
There's constant competition out there, right? And from a technical standpoint, yes, you start with a great architecture and you still have to keep updating that. You have to keep maintaining it, same way as you would as a car. From a product content perspective, you have to keep adding value. You can't just put something out there and not touch it again, because you can't continually add value. Part of the thing with the web is it's always latest and greatest and what's new. And that can be tough for a lot of businesses. Let's say you're selling a product and that product doesn't change. Like, how do you add value, right? And maybe none of your competitors are either, so you just did it once and they aren't doing anything, and so you can sit at the top for a while, but there's probably very few industries still like that. So you always have to be thinking about what kind of value can I continually be adding for my users, right? And even if your product doesn't change, there's things you can do. I'm happy to talk to you after and, give ideas and whatever your particular business is, but you have to keep kind of feeding this machine. It's not a one and done thing. You have to keep doing it as long as you want to keep getting traffic. And that's not free. That's your time at the very least.
And just to add to that, even though your business, your product might not change, your consumers are constantly changing. Our business is now 60% mobile traffic, right? So if I look back 2 years, it was 20-30%. So as those people shift, you have to shift with them. And it's not necessarily you need to shift your business model. You just need to shift how you perceive those users coming in. And when one of Tyler's direct reports, he reminded me that SEO doesn't mean search engine optimization. It's search experience optimization. We're optimizing for that experience of that user coming.
I have a question. How do you actually sell SEO as a tangible product? Like you said, you had difficulties explaining, for them to say, we're just going to give this to social and this to that. How did you actually paint the picture to your higher-ups to say, this is necessary, this is what we have to do to grow? And my second question was, are there daily checklists that you guys do on a daily basis, like a top 3, to make sure that it's done on a daily basis before you rank down the 3?
Great questions.
So the first question was, how do you sell the SEO idea to either the business or as something that we should be doing? It is a tough question, and it's a lot easier now. I mean, when I first started, people would say, oh, SEO, that's just this mumbo jumbo, especially with the development team. They would just say, oh, this is just a bunch of hacks, and you guys are just trying to trick the search engine. What I normally cite is, hey, I was working on ehow.com, 130 million unique visitors, 85% of that organic search. When you say that to any executive or anybody on the business side, they're just eyes light up with $, right? They basically just, you can't refute the fact that there is a tremendous amount of actual traffic and it's actually possible to do. Selling it to different teams, it's all about being able to talk their talk. With the development team, there are times where I basically will put the SEO best practice as a second priority, and that's how I always look at it. SEO is, although it's essential to the business, it's always the second priority, even though that's my role, right? My first priority is to the user, providing a better user experience. That's when I talk to the product team. When I talk to the engineering team, my primary responsibility is to make sure that their lives developing the engineering code, that it's not going to be a hassle for them. So if there's something that they need to make this Rube Goldberg machine just to get the SEO thing correct, I would have to evaluate, is this particular tactic worth that while? And it's a little hard if you don't know some of that, but you're talking about if 5 or 6 people have to touch this thing and 5 or 6 people need to continue to think about this, maybe it's not worth that additional small little benefit that I can't necessarily quantify. But the other harder part is actually selling the idea of SEO is a long-term game, right? Especially if you're a new business, if you have a new domain, you're looking at 9 to 12 months out before you see anything really meaningful or tangible. If you're a business that's been around for a few years, you can do stuff, but even doing stuff quickly, that's still 30 to 68 days out before you actually see anything tangible. So it's hard to actually tie stuff to that, but it's a level-setting expectation that you need to make sure that you do. Otherwise, your business owner is just going to complain that, oh, we're not seeing anything in a week. And there's no way, right? So I'll let these other guys talk to the other questions as well.
I think we all can't go to our boss and say, hey, 130 million visitors. But you can pretty quickly and fairly easily, express that opportunity cost to whoever it is you're trying to pitch that. You can do the opportunity cost of not doing it. What is there out there for us to gain? There's tools out there where you can look at whatever your space is, right? Well, first you need to look at your traffic and see, are we getting traffic from search right now? Are we not? And you can you can see the kind of phrases maybe that people are coming in on, right? Not as much anymore, but there's tools out there where you can think about, okay, what are people that we want to get to our site? What kind of things are they searching for? And you can get estimates of how many people a month are searching for that. And this is what I'm not on the consulting side anymore, but this is what I would do and how I would sell the business to people or services. I would go in, I'd do an audit of their site, and I would say, okay, these are kind of phrases or things that people are searching for. This is the volume of people searching for this every month. And hey, you guys aren't anywhere on the first 4 pages, right? So there's all these other sites out here that, there's tens, hundreds, of thousands of people searching for these things that could be customers. Now, they're not magically going to become your customers in a week, but there's this whole opportunity of people here. And the other way I always say is when's the last time you bought a product or researched anything without going into Google and typing it in? When's the last time you did that? 96? Right? So everyone is doing that. People are searching for whatever it is you sell. I don't care what it is, how obscure it is. People are searching for it, right? And they're not finding you, they're finding a competitor.
Good.
What are your favorite tools to test what page you're ranking on for which keywords? Prior to the assessment, and say if you're doing SEO for them, what are some of your favorite tools? Are they free? Are they paid? What are some of the ones that you guys use that you'd recommend that are good for if you're working with small to mid-sized businesses? To see what page they're ranking on, like if you put in a keyword, their website, the URL, right? Yeah.
I'll just there's a couple, and I don't. This again, it all kind of depends on what your budget would be for this, or if you have any. Google in and of itself used to have a pretty cool keyword planning and tool, but they sort of changed that about 6 or 8 months ago. I don't remember how long ago that was, but I kind of sucked. That was the one I learned on. But SEM Rush is one that I use quite a bit, or I did even before that. That one you can get a certain amount of data free, but if you sign up for a monthly membership at like $60 a month or something, $70 a month, you get full keyword volume data. That's a great way to unique keyword data. Even if you put in your own domain, you can see how many different unique keywords are driving traffic to your site now. You can export spreadsheets and say on boat supplies or something like that. Here's how many people a month are searching for boat supplies. Here's 100 other similar keywords and their search volumes. That one's great. Moz.com, and that's sort of the industry standard for MOZ for all sort of SEO related things. They have some really cool tools from everything from on-page graders to their own rank tracking tools. And that's I think they have. I'm pretty sure I haven't had a free account with them in a long time, but
30-day trial and $99 a month for 5 of them.
There you go. See, maybe you should be up here. Those are some of the best tools that I think almost anyone uses. There's a bunch of other ones too. We get into like search metrics and things like that. But there are free tools, and again, I'd like to echo them. Going back to how to sell this to your company. And again, it's that we can pick any metaphor you like. Here are 3 lanes on a highway, and why would you just close off one to allow people to get to where they want to go? I like the fitness one. That's a great metaphor too. But it's clear that this is sort of a fundamental aspect of the internet. It's a fundamental aspect of media. That's getting people there and understand. You're behind the times if you don't understand the basic rudiments of search and how to get people to come to your site through different channels. So I don't know that. Go ahead.
Would you use scrapers to check what position you're on? An option?
You could. I use. We also use. This is an exact scraper, but that reminds me of Screaming Frog. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that too, but that's a pretty strong crawling program that most people use too, to kind of give you a sense of what the main elements of your pages and how quickly they get crawled.
If you use that, but also use the same IP address to do the actual SEO work, can it hurt you? Because you're pushing a lot of traffic to Google.
Scraping Frog, you're really crawling your own site.
Okay.
You're not scraping rankings.
Okay.
Anything like that. I don't use any really ranking tools. Moz has some stuff in there, I think still. Raven got rid of theirs. Yeah. I wouldn't focus all your time on that. I would focus on what are you getting traffic on, what kind of keywords, and how is your traffic growing. One thing I wanted to quick answer. You also asked about what do we do, like what are some key things.
Just like a daily checklist.
Eric had mentioned Google Webmaster Tools. There's 2 things out there that are free that you have to get on your site right away if they're not, and that's Google Webmaster Tools and Google Analytics, right? And I think all of us probably would say that one of the first things we do in the morning is log in, see what traffic's like, how was it yesterday. They have hourly data there too, so you can see how we're doing today. And Google Webmaster Tools, you want to be hyper-focused on that because that alerts you to any errors on your site, any kind of spikes or drops in crawl issues, time issues. that's one where that's really kind of the pulse of your site. So you really want to get in that. And it's not that robust, but there's keyword data in there too, and that's free, and that's great data. It's coming directly from Google, and it's not, these perfectly round numbers anymore. They're actually giving you some, what they say are the actual legitimate numbers, and it looks like it. So that's one that you have to be on those two things, otherwise you kind of find fun.
And especially for smaller sites, that keyword data that's in there, they give you 100% of your keyword data. For larger sites like this that we work on, they only give us a sample of it, right? So, and also to the point of a checklist, it's something not necessarily a day-to-day checklist that we have, but I work with a development team. I'm highly technical, but you can work with your development team and just get to a point where anything before you push it out, it goes through an automated check, right? So there are things on our site that we absolutely cannot break from an SEO perspective. If we break these things, I tell the team, look, you're setting back our growth by 2 weeks to 2 months, because any small little misstep can actually be a signal of distrust that something is wrong, and basically the search engine just pause and they're like, something's wrong. We'll leave you there until you figure it out, right? And sometimes they don't come back to you for a while. So things like canonical tags, making sure your canonical tag, if you're not sure what that is, you should Google it. You should definitely have it on your site.
Can you spell that, please?
CANONCIAL. The thing is, it's a very simple check for the development team to add into a test automation script or a QA automation script, where it basically just looks at a sample set of your pages and says that this should never ever break. And you cannot push this new code out into production if this thing is broken. And it just halts the whole process. And then, the developer says, well, I can't push because I have a red flag. Well, who can clear this? Go talk to Eric, right? And then that makes sure that I know that things that are mission critical, business critical, it goes for analytics too. If your analytics is broken, there's a problem. So we also have test automation for our analytics. These things should never break. If your ads don't load, or your AdSense doesn't load, or your shopping cart doesn't load, that should be in there as well.
Speaking of analytics, I'm in the analytics business and I work on behalf of the advertisers. That means we track everything. Everything that can be tagged, everything that's in an app, everything that's offline. One of the major holes that we run into with our larger advertisers is the fact that if a user is coming to the site organically and they're logged into any Google product, you know where I'm going with this. They want to claim it's a privacy issue, but for the people in the room, Google encrypts the search query on the referring URL, meaning I cannot see it. They claim it as a privacy issue, but we all know it's a means to drive more money into PPC. So I'll fight that argument all day long. So I'm curious from the publisher side and from Yahoo's perspective, what do you think? There's no way around it, unfortunately, from where I sit from a statistical standpoint. So I'm curious what the opinion is of the panel.
So basically in analytics, where it says organic, oftentimes now it's a bigger number. When it says organic, there's still more people. You want to talk about that? Who wants to take a shot at it? Oh, you want to go first?
Are you referencing the fact that in a lot of now, what I find is it's not provided? You can't. Is that what you're
exactly
correct?
So if you're not sure, basically 2.5 years ago, Google started doing this, where basically 2.5 years ago, basically Google said for privacy concerns, we're going to start removing organic search queries that are coming into your site. So they basically strip it off. And then as of 3 months ago, they started actually doing that, or 2 months ago, they actually started doing that for PPC. So when that PPC traffic comes in, if you're broad match, you're not going to see what the user actually typed in. And whether or not you believe them or not, they claim it for privacy. I believe that there's an internal debate at Google whether or not it's fully on that or not. I believe that there are some strong intents around privacy, because if you go back to even a few years ago when AOL leaked the search query data. They were able to find this lady, this 60-year-old lady who had a dog because of all that search query data, even though it was anonymized, right? Because people do vanity queries, right? They search for their own name, they search for their own business, they search for where they live, going home, going to work. You're able to track that down to an individual. Now, as far as your question of whether or not,
what's the question? Are we trying to figure out what we should do about it?
Well, I don't think there is. I mean, from where I sit, there isn't anything I can do about it.
Because I'll be honest, we only have 10 minutes, and I just don't think that it sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what you could do from. As an advertiser, it's different, right? For everybody else who, you're a small business owner or you're a larger business publication, this is how we look at it. We basically look at, we forget, this even goes to the keyword tracking idea, right? We don't care about keyword phrases as an individual idea, right? If you even take it to extrapolate it to Google's Hummingbird algorithm, basically this now creates topical maps. So it doesn't matter if it's a specific keyword phrase or not. You're trying to target a particular topic. Now that topic could be as large as automotive, but it could be as small as electrical automotive or even just Tesla, right? So what you need to start thinking about is how do I categorize parts of my site so I know what my audience is highly attuned to? So if you go back to analytics, what we do is that as our editorial team writes, as they tag the different pages, we make sure that those pages, one, have the sales keyword phrase in there so that we can aggregate and pull that together and give sales data back down to the niche that they want, even to particular campaigns. And we also look at the different tags that our editorial team is about that. And then we data mine ourselves. We look at different sections of our site based on different time frames. So we know that Miley Cyrus, she's awesome for traffic, right? Let's keep on doing more Miley Cyrus articles. But at the same time, what kind of Miley Cyrus articles should we be doing? And you just have to look at your data. It's the ones that have a lot of photos, or the ones that talk about how crazy she is, or is it the ones that are just about her music and her tour, right? So you really need to just dig in, what is the audience doing? And you have different goals too. One could be, I just need to drive more traffic. More slideshows, more galleries, more pictures. People love that. But if I want that user to convert into a person who signs up to a newsletter, I'm going to be talking more long-form content, because that's what's going to really interest the user to come back and stick around and want to hear from me again, not just this crazy thing, right? They want to know the behind-the-scenes story, and we can provide that. So it depends on what your goals are, but you need to make sure that your analytics is well tagged and well suited to give you that information.
We're running short on time. If we can just do a 1-minute small little case study that we can take home with us, and then we will go into Q&A some more. An example is I had a client that it doesn't matter what he did, his rankings and his traffic never increased with organic. And when we logged in his webmaster tools, he had what was called a manual penalty for something that some horrible SEO person did years ago in 2007. So, so anyways, 2002. So one of the things that I think you guys, logging in the webmaster tools is very important, and sometimes there are little things like that that would literally kill all the efforts that you might be doing in the future. So that's one small example of a case study that we have. But we can go down the road and do something like this. Tyler?
Yeah, sure. And again, I think this goes back to a larger point that Eric was trying to make about not focusing on a broader understanding of what SEO is and what we can learn from it, and how we're constantly learning from it, even when these huge changes come through, and we think, I think one of the things that we hate the most, I'm just speaking for me, is seeing headlines saying SEO is dead, or basically anything trying to negate that what we do is in one little box, and as soon as one channel gets turned off there, that it's gone. Even in a big company like Yahoo, there's always constantly things we could be learning there. One case study I had when I first started about a year and a half ago was I realized that most of our Yahoo authors, even though they were big authorities in the space they wrote for, whether it be sports or for movies or something like that, they weren't recognized as Yahoo authors within Google results. You know, we enabled something called Google authorship, which is pretty simple. It's just a pretty neat sort of reciprocal linking tree that says you work for this website, you create content for them, and anytime that content shows up in Google search results, you should be associated with that author. There's been questions about whether or not authors with huge followings within Google Plus and whether or not anybody uses it, you know, makes a difference on how well they're indexed. But I pushed forward in making sure that all of our authors across entertainment and across our sports properties and things like that were recognized. And we saw significant traffic gains and better rankings for all their content where we should have been showing up in the first place. So that's just one very small example and a very specific one that says, you know, like you can always be a little bit better about your search strategy, and it will show tangible results, even for big companies like Yahoo.
Yeah, I would kind of build on the SEO is dead mantra as well that you hear every year, I think. The one thing that will never change, no matter how Google, Bing, no matter how the algorithm changes, they're always going to be making changes to try and find the best piece of content for whatever that user is searching for. So that'll never change, right? And so thinking about that and how you can, you know, create a better experience for your user, kind of harping on that again, the case study example, and this is something a lot of e-commerce companies face. There's a company I was at before, Demand. We sold a product that wasn't ours. We sold a lot. We had 2,500 products on our site, and 10,000 other businesses sold those online. And everyone gets the same description from the manufacturer, and you have that on your page, and so you have millions of pages on the internet selling the same thing that all say the exact same thing, right? And so how is a search engine to decide which one's better? And we were fortunate that we had a domain that had been around for a long time and had good value. So we got traffic for a long time, but they never had anybody focusing on SEO until they realized they were starting to lose search traffic. And it wasn't because they were doing anything wrong, it was just they weren't doing anything different. They weren't adding any value, they had the same thing. So when I started, I really focused on, okay, as a user, what can I add to this? When I'm shopping for something, what helps me make a purchasing decision, right? And so we did something that was, you know, pretty simple. We picked our top 60 products, and we wrote 1.5 to 2 minute scripts to do a nice in-depth product review, shot a video for it, put it on that product page, put a transcript on it, and for doing that for 60 products, our entire organic traffic from Google for the site shot up 80%. Just from that, just from doing that on 60 pages, right? And it was just doing something that nobody else was doing, and it's thinking about how can you add a little bit of extra value, how can you do something a little bit different. E-commerce is a tough place because of that. I know and that's when somebody says, well, we have 2,500 products, how can we do it for everything? Well, you don't have to do it for everything, you know? We looked at and said, like, the 80-20 rule, you know? These products drive 80% of our revenue, so let's focus on those, right? So I'll always be thinking about how can you differentiate yourself, how can you make whatever it is that you want that user to come to, how can you make that page better than their other options out there?
I'll be quick. So basically, from a case study perspective, let's search for Service Magic as they change their name to Home Advisor. This is one thing that was on search engine land, and it's one of these cases where be careful of what you read out there, even if everybody says it's the best practice, because what's right for one business might not be right for yours. And in that case study, they changed their whole brand. They said that Service Magic, it didn't really mean anything to people. Home Advisor does. And they did this huge change. And they saw a 30 to 50% drop in organic search as they changed their domain. And they were expecting it because everyone tells them you should expect it. You 301 redirect your Service Magic site to your Home Advisor site. The thing is, in my head the whole time, like, they never had to lose any traffic at all. If you use canonicals, rel canonical, again, look it up if you're not familiar with it, you basically can tell Google, Service Magic, that's over there at Home Advisor now. You have both sites running at the same time. As long as your business is okay with having two brands, your organic traffic will eventually move over there, right? And once you get almost all your organic search traffic over there, then you do your 301 redirects. you're not going to lose any traffic. You're going to be able to maintain all that growth. And it's one of those cases where in the industry, people would just say, oh, 301 redirect, 301 redirect. That's the best practice of moving it over. And no one's really thinking through, use all the tools that are available to you, as long as your business can tolerate certain use cases. So again, just make sure that when you read stuff, that one, you look at how recent is it, and two, just try to evaluate how it actually fits into your business and whether or not you can tolerate certain things.
Good answers, guys. Q&A, any questions?
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
I mean, how important is it, like the relationship between social and organic, right? So we all have these online brands and companies now, and as you create new content, you post it on Twitter, you post it on Instagram, you post it on your blog, like, right, there's this consistent stream of content, ideally, that is happening. If you go back to the basics, like the algorithms, are they reading kind of your brand, your online brand as a whole? And then I guess if the answer is yes, how important is it to be consistent with the type of content that you're putting out? Should we be posting to everything consistently? Like, as you're growing a brand, talk about the importance of that type of stuff.
Who wants this?
I would first and foremost, I wouldn't approach your social channels thinking about like how is this going to get me search traffic.
Right.
I would approach them as far as consistency. What should I be posting? You should be posting whatever it is that your users want that's going to grow your Twitter fan base and your Twitter authority. You should be same thing on Instagram, same thing on Pinterest, same thing on Facebook, all those things, right? And it's they'd like to get there, they're not there. It's a great signal. It gives everybody a vote. Traditionally, SEO has really been driven by links and how many people can make a link. That's a vote for the site, but social gives everybody a vote. So they'd like to get there, but they're not there, right? But there is a waterfall effect of it, right? It's more of a correlative thing. It's not that you're just going to get a bunch of Twitter links and now you rank 1. You're going to get a bunch of Twitter links because you have something that's great, people are going to read that, then there is somebody that can actually link to it from a site, so they're going to link to it from a site. So it's going to grow because of the stuff that you did on Twitter is going to help, but it's not this total one-to-one thing. That doesn't lessen the importance of it. I think it's hugely important, but it's not quite so direct. So kind of to answer, I would say definitely spend time on those, definitely focus on those. They're hugely important. But do what is going to make you grow as an authority in that space, and it will help your SEO, not as directly as I think people think. Be nice when they get there at some point, but it's just not there yet. Because they would love that. Google would love to have all that data. We don't.
Quick question about on the same topic. What about the duplicate content? Is it best to have different content for social media, or is it okay to push like a topic or a content to all of them, even though it's all the same?
I would say that again, that you should post again what your users want wherever they need to be across all the different kinds of media. I guess if you're kind of asking like, should your strategy, we're going into slow strategy a little bit more now, but are you asking sort of like, should your strategy for Google Plus be different than Facebook rather different than Twitter?
No, just duplicate content. So let's say the content should be the same on both sides. Should you just rewrite the content for Facebook and then Twitter, or can you push the same thing to both?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it totally depends. We'll take the same content, but we'll repackage it for Pinterest. Like we might make we might take a slideshow and post that slideshow on Twitter and Facebook, but then we might turn those 12 steps in the slideshow into one thing that we can pin for Pinterest, right? So yes and no, I guess. Okay. I mean, think about the audience and what the people want there and what they expect.
Anyways, guys, we're officially out of time. So I guess I will just thank our panelists up here.